Follow back.
We're back to Beatdown here on the Sherdog Radio Network, broadcasting live from the Tachi Palace Hotel and Casino in Lemoore, California, on site for TPF 19. Throwback Thursday. It goes down tomorrow, streaming live on Sherdog.com. And you can't really call it Throwback Thursday without a throwback. And we're joined by one now. You kind of laugh at that. Does that sound bad, Olaf Alfonso, the co-main eventer? You not like being called a throwback?
Oh, no. It's just funny that I'm here.
Yeah. All right.
It's been a while.
You know, when we were looking at this card and I saw the name and I saw you were on it was just so fitting. I mean, a lot of your career, some of the biggest moments in your career happened in the Central Valley of California. I mean, you're a pride vet. You're a guy that has stood out and really made a name beyond the Central Valley. But when I think of Olaf, I think of some of those wars that you had here in the WEC. And honestly, I get to call the fights tomorrow, Olaf. It's an honor.
You do? Great.
It's an honor to be here to call one of your fights here in the Central Valley.
Yeah, I'd have to say that pretty much almost all my U.S. fights are in this area, because this is where I like to fight. I like to come here, and this is where I always took the fights. You know, of course, I fought in a lot of other countries, but in the U.S., this was my home. And so, of course, I'd love to come back and fight, and I'm here.
You face Adrian Diaz tomorrow night. Again, it is the co-main event streaming live on Sherdog.com. The Fight Finder will tell us that you haven't fought, at least that we have, since 2009. What's been going on the last few years?
I've been on like a perpetual vacation.
Well, that sounds nice.
I've been enjoying. No, I've just kind of changed a few things. Decided to stick with the family thing. We've been traveling, and then I finally had a child. And you know, I was married like 10 years before we had a child.
Wow.
And so we were traveling the world, and the fighting was part of it. Was fun, you know. And then we decided to have a child, so we kind of structured our life in a different way. And I'm kind of basing myself out of went back to Guatemala, basing myself there, kind of go back and forth from there, and Europe and some other places, and just enjoying myself and trying to keep the businesses going, because I've been building businesses for the last 25 years. So
don't take offense to this, because I don't mean any offense of it at all. But when I think of Olaf, I think these crazy wars. I think this showman, this guy that goes and fights in Pride, these wars in the WEC. The last thing I've ever thought about was Olaf Alfonso, the father. What has fatherhood been like?
It's actually absolutely nuts, and I think it's payback for everything I've ever done in my entire life. So if they, as far as karma, I've been like really blessed in my life. I've had probably, at least for me, one of the best lives ever. I've had lots of experience. I've enjoyed a lot of things, and a lot of good things have come my way. And then this is another great thing, but it's also my karmic retribution, because she's crazy. My daughter's nuts, and it's wonderful. But but I'm definitely it's definitely a whole other experience. It's crazier than I've ever been.
TJ brought up your fights of WEC, and maybe some people will be listening to this show, and there's a lot of new fans in this sport,
right?
But your fight with Polakowski, the first one,
yeah,
I was sitting cage side on that, and it was one of those fights that was just amazing to see. I mean, it was just back and forth, and it was one of those fights that is great for TV. I mean, you put that on TV, and really, you set anyone in front of that TV. I don't care if she's an 85-year-old grandma or a 14-year-old kid. I don't think they're going to get up. What was it like in that cage that night when you're fighting that fight?
Well, first off, it was great. I love. That's one of my favorite fights, and obviously that was kind of an exception to things, because my fighter backed out, and we had to scramble to find somebody that was actually fit and ready and in shape. It couldn't just be anybody.
Right.
And at the time, Chuck Liddell was training with him and a few other guys, and they're like, "Well, we got a guy, but we got to make it special if we're going to have you fight." And so we did a little bit of adjustments on the rules,
right?
So that because I'm technically I'm a wrestler grappler. I've been a black belt in jiu-jitsu for years. But I don't fight that way. I think we all know. I don't use my wrestling.
Your nose does not look like a grappler.
I do not use my submissions.
Cauliflower nose.
And so we wanted to make sure this kickboxer that we'd have a good fight. That I wouldn't just take him down and submit him, because my skill level on the ground at that moment compared to his was higher as far as the submission is. Mm-hmm. So we decided not to use the submissions. We decided to have it be kickboxing / MMA hybrid rule fight between us as men, as the group. So that, and then it turned out to be the best decision we ever made because this guy could take a punch. This is like fighting myself. I couldn't hurt this guy, and so we went back and forth and just blood everywhere. And he didn't get tired, and I didn't. I had no way out. I had no way to just like quickly put in a finishing hold and escape from that cage.
Right.
My only way out was keep hitting him, and it was just. It was great. I actually really enjoyed that fight. And it caught me off guard because I wasn't fully prepared conditioning-wise to go the 15 minutes for that fight. And it kind of made me have to come up with a way to just not give up during the fight. Not so much pain maybe, but more just like, God, I was tired. This guy I was so tired and I had to figure out how to do it.
You talk about that. Normal people would not want anything to do with that. I'm not calling you abnormal, but I mean, you've never shied away from that. What is it about fighting that just is magnetic to you?
Listen, I think fighting is one of the best things a man can do in his life, especially as a younger man, to get to know yourself and have a type of inner awakening about who you are and what you think you are and what you really are, and let you really feel those emotions and those potentialities that exist in you that everybody can say, well, if this happened, I would do this. Or if everybody ever came and robbed my house, man, I'd take it. But to have it happen is the only way to really know how you'd respond under pressure.
It's like that Fight Club quote, how much do you know about yourself unless you've been in a fight?
Kind of like that, and everybody has to find their own individual reasonings or thoughts about it. Mine's a whole different thing probably than other people, because I was in the military. I was a PJ for the U.S. Air Force, and so I had kind of combat time, and so it's a little everybody gets their own experiences. You can't compare yourself to other people, but fighting let you look deep inside yourself, and one of the favorite things for me about fighting is one of the true moments you can live in the present. You're not thinking about your rent. You're not thinking about your car insurance. You're not thinking about, man, did I eat yesterday? The only thing you're thinking about is that present moment.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best states to be in as a human anyway. But this one kind of forces you to be in that present moment. And I really get a lot of enjoyment out of that part of it.
Yeah, living for the now.
Which is why I throw down instead of grapple the guy to the ground, mount, take his back, submit, like I do in grappling tournaments. I mean, I've won every grappling tournament I've ever entered. I've never lost in a grappling competition.
Wow.
Because I fight different.
Right.
I'm very cautious, very slow, and I'm very opposite. Right? I really work my takedown, get the guy in a bad position, work my way to submission and submit, or I've won on points. And it's completely the opposite. So I don't do that in a fight, because this is my chance to hit someone, not go to jail, not get yelled at. And matter of fact, I get people that are nice to me. The more I hit a guy, the nicer the fan mail, the nicer people treat me. Buy
people
me drinks.
Just love you for it.
Yeah, and so it's one of those times that you get to kind of have fun, which is why I'm different, I think, than others. A lot of people don't have that same fun. I think they're really nervous. They want to win at all costs. I don't think that way, which has cost me a lot of wins, because I don't take the easy route of making sure I win. And there's been times I was winning the fight and then I keep going crazy and I lose the fight.
Yeah.
I should have just finished the guy, or should have been safer. But no, that's not my personality.
Obviously everyone wants to win and be successful, but does winning and losing, does it really enter your mind when you're fighting? I mean, is the win all that important as much as just performing and entertaining?
People might not believe this, but I'll go ahead and say, of course I like winning.
Right.
It's always kind of a better feeling, a different feeling, but a better feeling when you win, because the people treat you different. Mm-hmm. So that your outside experience, like you walk down the hall, you go to the restaurant, people treat you different.
Right.
So yes, I like winning, but I honestly don't care. Like, I don't go in to win. I go in to have fun and get a good experience, which is why I don't use my grappling. If I wanted to win, I would make sure to be safe, be very careful not to get hit, be very careful to get the guy to the ground where I know I'm good. Mm-hmm. And since I don't do that, I just go in and I play, and I see what happens. Let's see how this comes out, and see if this can be a good show. Because at the end of all, I used to be a promoter before I fought.
Right.
And at the end of this is, are people going to pay tickets to watch this group of guys fight? When I was a promoter, I had to specifically pick guys I thought people would pay to see.
Sure.
So for me, it was almost a confliction. If I go in and play safe, like I know I can, And then in the back of my mind thinking, well, but gosh, I don't hire guys like that. So it almost kind of gave me a relief, almost gave me an out. Like, okay, I'll be that guy that promoters want to see, and I'll fight, and hopefully I also win. But if not, at least it's a good show. And I think, at least in my opinion, you guys see a lot more fights than I've ever seen. I think all my fights are pretty fun.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt about it.
I think most of them, a high percentage, have been a good, pay-worthy fight to go ticket and see. And that's why I think I used to sell out a lot of shows and help with the development of the WC and things like that, because people paid to watch. And so it's like, well, at least I could be that guy, for sure. Make sure the promoter got his money worth.
I think something interesting about you is a lot of guys that came to the WCs here and saw you fight and saw you preparing and walking around. You're still like a total mystery to everyone.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, where'd they find this guy? Where'd Olaf come from?
There's a mystique.
Well, seriously, it's weird. And to build that in a smaller organization like the WC at the time in Lemoore, I mean, was there any plan to that, or did it just work out that way?
Well, okay, I'm not going to tell too much. But
see, mystique.
There it is.
But Scott Adams and me were friends. And he was telling me about the show. They were trying to build up ticket sales at the early, the first 5, Right. And I told him, I said, well, if you really want to build up, because at the time I was doing really successful with my other businesses, and which is the reason why I don't have to fight for money and really be worried about winning, because winning, to get paid, you have to keep winning.
Right.
There's a reality.
Right.
I mean, there's a reality in business here with the fight game that you have to be entertained, but you have to win in order to get these bigger checks that you need to live off, because there's not enough money that way.
Which is why we see a lot of guys in the UFC at the highest level play.
The higher level, they play safer.
Much safer than they did when they were coming up.
And they can't help it, because you have that in the back of your mind. Man, I got to pay rent. I got to, I want to make a career out of this. So one of the benefits I had is that I already had a stable income without fighting. I already had some businesses and didn't have to rely on that as my food source. So when me and Scott talked about it, he wanted to increase his sale. I said, well, I got an idea. Let's create my character, and let me fight. I'll fight the way we want to see us fight. But obviously, it's me. It's not really like a fictitious character, but I kind of exaggerated myself a little bit. I mean, I'm still Olaf. It was always
you handed
Olaf.
up a little bit.
But I gave a little more show. I let my hair a little longer. And we purposely, in the first time I fought WC, we put Olaf, no last name, age, ? Hometown, ? Style, ?
It's perfect.
And everybody's like, what? And then, of course, I came in hard, fast. Every time the guy gave me a submission, I wouldn't take it. Just kept hitting it, just let him up a bunch of times. Made a really exciting first fight, and luckily got the win, which was necessary for that first one.
That helped.
For that first one, we needed it, because to build up that mystique.
That approach, I mean, I don't want to inflate your ego by any means, but that approach made you somewhat of a legend in mixed martial arts. That's what got you to Pride.
Right.
That's what opened up a lot of doors, I think, for you.
And we can't forget that I also had to do that.
Right.
It's not so easy to go in and say, well, I'm going to fight crazy and beat this guy up and not play safe. It's not so easy.
Right. I mean, you could have walked across the ring and got knocked out in one punch, and we're not sitting here right now.
Right. Or he starts hitting me and better just choke him out. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So they took a little bit of mental fortitude these first fights to keep that style up, because it hurts. I mean, it's a painful style. I broke my nose a bunch of times, broke my rib. I'm not the biggest guy. I fought at heavier weights, but I've always been small, and so my body doesn't take the damage of these guys that weigh 190 cut to 55. I walk around 160, 159. I've always have. So when I fight the bigger guys or fight a guy that cuts, I feel a lot more damage, I think, than he does.
Let me ask you this. You talked about maybe not playing it safe. Let's say you're a 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid today. Mixed martial arts is already this big business. It's a UFC world. You got to win. Would you still come into MMA with that approach of, as an entertainer, I'm going to try to move tickets? Or would you come in and go, I'm going to try to really, do what's right. Maybe play it safe, but, keep winning fight after fight after fight in hopes to getting a world title? Because, I mean, well, you can become a big mainstream star if you win a UFC belt.
That's a tricky question. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Is I think I would play safe, and for sure, you got to think in the past.
Sure.
it wasn't popular. People didn't know MMA. They needed people to kind of jump the sport going. I think I was one of those people that helped, at least in certain areas. And nowadays, they don't need that character. They don't need that guy anymore. Now, if I came back, I was young, I would win.
I'm TJ DeSantis. He's Jeff Sherwood, broadcasting here from the Tachi Palace Hotel and Casino. Throwback Thursday goes down tomorrow, streaming live on SureDog. And a true throwback joining us now, Olaf Alfonso on the SureDog Radio Network.
Now, since you had all those question marks, and, you know, it's rude to ask a woman her age. I see that you're fighting a 26-year-old kid. I will say this. I think you're a few years older than 26.
Yeah, I'm quite a few years older.
What was it like when you got that phone call and they're like, hey, Olaf, we're doing a throwback thing. No, you haven't been fighting or anything, but what do you think?
You know, that was kind of an interesting call. I didn't ask about the opponent. I didn't ask anything. I just asked, the only thing I asked was, what's the date? Told me the date, and I said, let me call you back. I checked my calendar, checked on my if I'm available that date, and I happened to, that was one of the few weeks I was available, the 14th through the 20th. It's like the only week I was available. And the way I looked at it was like, well, I guess I'm supposed to fight.
Sure.
So
I just didn't know it yet. I did have something on my schedule. I just didn't know it until now.
Right. And I'm actually busy until like October. So so pretty much it kind of worked out. So now I have a full schedule again. And
yeah, well, we definitely look forward to it. We've seen you in the past. We keep talking about your kind of legend in mixed martial arts. What are we going to see tomorrow night on SureDog.com?
I haven't fought in a long time. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm definitely going in there. We all know what I'm gonna do, which is probably come at them,
right? And
then we'll see how it plays out from there. Yeah.
You looking forward to it?
I'm excited. I'm actually pretty excited. It's gonna be kind of nice, you know. And plus, I've had kind of my lifestyle is completely different than my personal lifestyle is completely different. You know, I get to travel and eat at restaurants every day, and have a completely like soft type of lifestyle. I paint and write, and so this will be.
Well, maybe you should listen to some like loud, aggressive music and get you in the fight. You're too laid back, Olaf. You're having too much fun.
Yeah, that's my life. I'm happy. I'm actually happy. So we'll see how it translates tomorrow night. I think it's going to be good. I mean, I can't imagine it being boring. But let's hope that it would be nice to pull off the win. You know, make it entertaining and pull off the win. Those are the two things that I'm always shooting for. You know, unfortunately, sometimes the entertainment side supersedes the win because I push it a little too far. So hopefully, it won't be one of those times. Hopefully, this time I can pull off both, and we all leave away happy, especially.
Well, don't make it look too good. They might ask you to keep fighting.
I know, man. And I might just keep saying yes, you know? We'll see.
We can't wait to see it tomorrow night. Co-main event at Tachi Palace Fights 19, Throwback Thursday. Olaf, best of luck, and we'll chat soon, hopefully.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
We're back.